The Tyranids arrived in the galaxy and immediately started consuming worlds. Hive Fleet Behemoth devoured Prandium completely, stripped it to bare rock, moved on to the next target. The pattern seemed obvious. Locusts from beyond the galactic rim, mindlessly eating everything in their path until nothing remains. Except the timeline doesn't support that narrative. The first Genestealer infiltrations happened centuries before the Hive Fleets arrived. Genestealers were seeding worlds, establishing cults, integrating into human populations for generations, while the main fleets were still in the intergalactic void. That's not the behavior of mindless predators. That's agricultural preparation. The Tyranids aren't consuming humanity. They're cultivating it. Every war, every conflict, every evolutionary pressure is making humans more valuable as biomass, and Terra is the crop they've been waiting millennia to harvest. Genestealer cults operate for generations before the Hive Fleet arrives. 4 or 5 generations of hybrids infiltrating planetary governments, military command structures, industrial facilities. They could rebel immediately. The Patriarch has psychic control over the entire cult from the moment of infection. But they wait, they spread, they integrate deeper into the population while the Hive Fleet approaches. Official law claims this is to weaken planetary defenses before invasion, but think about what's actually happening. The cult is monitoring the population, tracking genetic diversity, identifying which bloodlines produce the strongest specimens, which families carry latent psychic potential, which populations have adapted to harsh environments in useful ways. They're livestock inspectors embedded in the herd, and their reports are feeding back to the hive mind through the Patriarch's psychic beacon. By the time the fleet arrives, the Tyranids have a complete genetic census of every human on that world. Consider how Tyranids actually consume biomass. They don't just kill and eat. They break down organic matter into genetic components, analyze it, integrate useful traits into future bioforms. Zoanthropes are bioengineered from harvested elderly DNA specifically because the elder are psychically potent. The hive mind doesn't just want calories, it wants genetic information, evolutionary advantages, unique biological adaptations, and humanity, spread across 1 million worlds with countless genetic variations, provides the most diverse gene pool in the galaxy. But not all humans are equally valuable. A hive worlder who spent their life in industrial smog, breathing recycled air, isn't as genetically interesting as a feral worlder who survived in a death world ecosystem for generations. The Tyranids need to sort through the populations, identify the specimens worth harvesting, and ignore the genetic chaff. The Imperium's endless warfare serves Tyranid interests perfectly. 10,000 years of constant conflict have been creating evolutionary pressure across every human world. The strong survive, the adaptable thrive, the psychically gifted get identified and sent to Terra or burned as witches, but their genes remain in the population. Every generation of warfare selects for aggression, resilience, and survival instincts. Every planetary disaster culls the weak and preserves the strong. The Imperium thinks it's maintaining humanity through struggle. It's actually doing the Tyranids' work for them, running a galaxy-scale selective breeding program that produces hardier, more aggressive, more psychically active specimens. The hive mind doesn't need to farm humanity directly. The Imperium has been farming it for them for 10 millennia. What do you think happens to the Genestealer cults after the planet is consumed? The Imperium assumes they all die, but some cultists escape on refugee vessels during the chaos of invasion. Those vessels carry the infection to new worlds, where the cycle starts again. That's not accidental. The hive mind could reabsorb every Genestealer into the biomass pools after consumption. Instead, it allows some to escape and spread to uninfected worlds. That's intentional seeding. The Tyranids are using Genestealers the way farmers use seeds, planting them in populations generations before harvest, letting them take root and grow while the main fleet moves on to other targets. By the time the fleet returns to that region of space, multiple new worlds have been seeded, their populations monitored, their genetics catalogued. Terra is the ultimate target, and it's been ripening for 10,000 years. The Astronomicon draws every Hive Fleet toward the galactic core. Behemoth came from the eastern fringe. Kraken attacked from multiple vectors. Leviathan approaches from below the galactic plane. Every major fleet is converging on the same region of space, and Terra sits at the center. The official narrative claims the Astronomicon is just a beacon, attracting the Tyranids because it's been a bright psychic signal. But consider what Terra actually represents in genetic terms. It's the oldest continuously inhabited human world. Its catacombs contain 10,000 years of accumulated corpses, billions of bodies from every era of Imperial history. The planet processes 1 million psychers daily through the black ships, concentrating psychically active genetics in one location. Terra isn't just a psychic beacon. It's a genetic archive of humanity's entire evolutionary history, and the Tyranids have been working toward harvesting it since before the Imperium existed. The shadow in the warp proves they're not mindless. When a Hive Fleet approaches, it projects a psychic presence so powerful it disrupts warp travel and drives psychers insane across entire sectors. That level of psychic sophistication doesn't come from instinct. That's calculated suppression of enemy capabilities, designed to isolate target worlds before invasion. The hive mind understands exactly how Imperial infrastructure functions. It knows psychers are required for interstellar travel and communication. It knows severing those links prevents reinforcement and creates panic. That's not animal behavior. That's strategic intelligence planning military operations. And if the hive mind is intelligent enough to understand Imperial logistics, it's intelligent enough to farm populations instead of immediately consuming them. Tyranid adaptation reveals the truth. Every Hive Fleet learns from previous encounters. Behemoth faced the Ultramarines at Macragge and lost. Kraken developed new bioforms specifically designed to counter our Astartes' tactics. Leviathan exhibits behaviors that suggest it's learned from both previous fleets. That's not instinct. That's cumulative knowledge, strategic planning across centuries, patience to wait for the right moment to strike. An organism capable of that level of long-term planning wouldn't waste genetic resources on immediate consumption when cultivation produces better results. The Tyranids have been farming the galaxy for millions of years. Humanity just hasn't been worth harvesting until now. The Imperium's psychic evolution accelerates the timetable. Humanity is becoming more psychically active with each generation. More psychers are born every year. The Astronomicon requires more souls to maintain. The Emperor's transformation into a warp entity is creating a species-wide shift towards psychic awareness. From the Tyranids' perspective, this is exactly what they've been waiting for. Humanity has been ripening for 10 millennia, and it's finally approaching genetic maturity. The psychically potent species that once produced the Emperor, that creates Primarchs and living saints and Alpha Plus psychers capable of destroying Titans with thought alone, is ready for harvest. Every human killed before now would have been a waste of potential. but humanity in M41 and beyond represents peak genetic value, maximum psychic potential, the culmination of 10,000 years of evil evolutionary pressure. Terra's catacombs contain the real prize. Beneath the throne world's surface lie billions of corpses from every era. Bodies from the Unification Wars, fallen Thunder Warriors, Astartes from the Great Crusade, Primarch gene seed from before the heresy, psychic candidates who failed their trials, citizens from the dark age of technology, whose genetic templates might contain advantages lost in subsequent millennia. The genetic diversity stored beneath Terra exceeds the total biomass of 100 garden worlds, and it's all concentrated in one location, preserved in the dry environment of the catacombs, waiting to be harvested. The Tyranids don't need to conquer the Imperium. They need to crack Terra open and drain the genetic repository of 10,000 years of human evolution. The timing of the Hive Fleet's arrival isn't coincidence. They entered the galaxy during M41, exactly when the Imperium reached its maximum extent. 1 million worlds, quadrillions of humans, genetic diversity spread across every possible environment. If they'd arrived during the Great Crusade, humanity would have been expanding, but not yet fully established. If they'd waited another 1,000 years, the Imperium might have collapsed into civil war or been conquered by chaos. M41 represents peak imperial population density, maximum genetic diversity, optimal harvest conditions. The Tyranids didn't stumble into the galaxy at a random moment. They timed their arrival to coincide with humanity reaching maturity as a species. Hive Fleet Kronos reveals their true capabilities. It's specialized to fight chaos, projecting an enhanced shadow in the warp that can force demons to dematerialize and shut down warp rifts. That level of specialization means the hive mind can design entire fleets for specific strategic objectives. If it can create a fleet optimized to fight warp entities, it can create fleets optimized to harvest specific genetic profiles. The Imperium assumes every hive fleet is identical in purpose, all consuming biomass indiscriminately. But Kronos proves they have distinct roles. Some fleets are harvesters, some are scouts, some are specialists designed for particular types of warfare or consumption. The diversity of approach suggests a coordinated strategy, managed by an intelligence vastly more sophisticated than the Imperium admits. The Pharaoh's device incident demonstrates their attention. When the beacon on Sotha activated during the Horus heresy, it sent a pulse across the galaxy that immediately attracted Hive Fleet Behemoth. The Tyranids recognized Necron energy signatures from across intergalactic space and responded within centuries. That's not random wandering. That's deliberate navigation towards specific targets based on detected energy emissions. If they can detect and respond to Necron technology, they can detect the Astronomicon. They've known exactly where Terra is since the moment the Emperor sat on the Golden Throne and lit humanity's psychic beacon. They've been approaching it for 10,000 years, seeding Genestealers ahead of their advance, monitoring human populations through psychic links, waiting for the species to reach genetic maturity. When the Tyranids finally consume Terra, they won't just be eating one planet. They'll be harvesting the genetic culmination of humanity's entire existence, every useful trait that evolved on every human world, every psychic bloodline concentrated in the black ships, every adaptation to different environments, from ice worlds to death worlds to hive cities. The genetic information stored in Terra's population and catacombs represents tens of thousands of years of human evolution, and the Tyranids have been cultivating it through the Imperium's wars, conflicts, and survival pressures since before the Emperor revealed himself. The Imperium isn't humanity's protector. It's the terrarium maintaining optimal conditions for the crop, and the harvest is coming.